Hi, you have found Aging Gracefully with Julie Roca, and I am Julie Roca. We have been recording this podcast for about 2 years now. And so, in discussing and looking back over the last couple of years, Agustin Roca, my husband, and I decided to do something a little bit different. In the first podcast we ever had, I brought my lovely husband on, and we had a chat kind of about where he was in life and some of the big things that he was doing. So we're going to discuss that a little bit today. And then he decided that he wanted to put me in the hot seat today. So normally you see me on the other side of the table asking questions, but today he has compiled some questions either that people have asked me directly, him directly, or both of us together. So I think without further ado, my love, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I thought I wasn't invited for a while. I finally got out of the penalty box and I'm back here. I was podcast guest 0, all right?
You were.
And I spent a lot of time slapping the table last time, so I'm trying out. I slapped it. I went ahead and slapped it when we first started.
And reminded yourself not to slap the table.
Reminded myself not to do it, that's right.
And I think when you came on the first time, that became our most watched video. So I think that people really enjoy seeing you and I together, or maybe just you. I don't know, but
you have a very lovely husband. That's what. No,
you brought all the viewers to the playground.
No,
so
that was an anomaly. We'll see.
But we wanted to catch up because this is also a time of year. When we discussed last time, you were going to go on a major trip.
That's right. We were going on the High Sierra Trail. We were going to do the HST all the way to Mount Whitney and Summit and come back. 2023 also happened to be a record snow year. I think we talked about that, and we talked about, that might create some issues. Sure enough, when we got to just below the Great Western Divide, I don't know, somewhere between 10,000 and 11,000 feet-ish. Right? I don't remember exactly. We decided to turn around because we were getting past our skill level. There was a lot of snow. We'd gone off trail. We were actually scrambling up rocks to try to get past some of the snow-covered terrain. And then at some point, just at the Great Continental Divide, the Western Continental Divide. Anyway, at some point,
out there in the snow-covered lands,
we had gotten. California has groups of volunteers that work out there. Yeah. Maybe all year long, and they have very good skills, right, out on the trail and mountaineering skills. And I saw those folks were, carrying ice axes, etc. We were not. So we had no way to, arrest ourselves if we started sliding down the side of a snowbank. And it was the end of July, beginning of August, so there was snow melt happening at the same time that there were still some areas with thick snow. We decided to turn back around, right?
And for those of us who live in the heart of Florida and are used to, 100-degree weather in July and August, we can't hardly imagine that. But there was still quite a bit of snow and ice out there.
Yeah.
So
record year. So we're going to try it again this year. Yeah. I know you're really happy about that. This year should be a lot better. We'll see.
We will see.
Maybe I'll be back here in another 2 years from now saying, this happened.
So I'm hoping that you guys make it, because it is nerve-wracking as all get out for me. And not having communication for those days and days is difficult.
I'm sure it'll be fine, but if I don't make it, I'm glad I'm here to say goodbye to everybody.
Oh,
no, I'm
my
kidding.
Lord.
I'm playing. It'll be fine. Lots of people do it. It won't be a big deal. We'll be smart like we were last time.
Well, let's hope so. You got more teenage boys going with you, so that makes me nervous.
We'll keep the testosterone in check.
Well, so without wasting any more time, I think we should dive into some of those questions you had.
So welcome to Aging Gracefully with Agustin Roca. Today I have my special guest here is Julie Roca, well known in Gainesville and surrounding communities as an advocate for the elderly, someone who helps people with placement, with hospice care, a very passionate advocate for the Alzheimer's Association,
Yeah.
An all-around lovely woman, and I happen to be very lucky to be married to this lady.
Thank you, love.
You're welcome.
It's very sweet.
So we wanted to have a discussion with her today to see what she is all about. She is typically on the other side of the microphone asking a whole bunch of questions, so I will do my best to make this as interesting as possible, and we'll see what we can learn about Julie today. So Julie, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I was one of 10 children. I grew up in the preacher's home. And I, like my grandmother, I'm very nosy. So, so that's why I like being on that side of the table, because I can sit and ask questions all day. But no, I think growing up in the preacher's house, I saw my mother, who was a nurse, just very compassionately caring for people. And she always made us a part of it. I remember when I was very young, because I was one of 10 children, she was either pregnant or breastfeeding for most of my years growing up. And so I would go with her and help her to care for some people that needed help at the end of life. And that was very impactful to me. And I realized that maybe not then, but at some point I realized that I wanted to do that with my life. And so that's kind of what draws me to working with the elderly now, is trying to just help to improve their lives.
Excellent. So your mother, passed on to you the great skill for caring for others and providing care. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, your dad passed off to you.
Yeah, my dad was an educator. Yeah. So I also had a passion for education and educating. And so I feel like it's a very good marriage of the two. I get the opportunity to educate. For example, the other day, we did a simulation. If you see pictures of me looking like I'm 8 months pregnant that are recent, I was not. I was wearing a fake belly, and I was simulating someone who had extreme liver disease. And so if you see me with a bottle of vodka and a large belly, not pregnant, just doing my job and educating.
If you were 8 months pregnant, I'd have a lot of questions.
We would have.
If I saw you with a bottle of vodka, I'd have even more questions. So your dad imparted to you education, the skill of education, but he gave you something else, right?
Oh, the gift of gab.
The
gift of gab.
Connection.
And the gift of connection. And just this desire to learn a lot. So I think that helps me when I'm sitting across from someone that I feel like our audience needs to learn more about the topic, because I'm able to ask, and I really, really want to know. I really want to listen and learn. And it may be that I'm asking a question that I well know the answer to, but I want for my expert to share with our audience. And sometimes even I think I know the answer to it, and I'll learn something new. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, you are a top-notch networker.
Well, thank you,
communicator. Love. So, and then having sat down and spent some time with your dad, I could see where that comes from. Mm-hmm. See, your dad also imparted a very strong and abundant faith to you.
Yes.
Right? Which must help.
And I feel like because I did grow up with that, I think it's easy to have a faith like a child when you are told about I knew that I was a little sinner even as a young child, but I was told that Christ came and made a huge sacrifice, and I was able to grasp that. We're facing Easter now, and it wasn't hard for me to have the faith that Christ came and made the sacrifice for our sin by dying on the cross, and then 3 days rose from the grave and is able to cover our sins. I think that was not the same for you. You did not grow up in that environment as much, although you grew up in church.
I did. We grew up in a Catholic family, right? But it was. It's interesting because now you've reverted back to your role where you're interviewing me. But I will answer the question. No, we were Catholic. I mean, you've met my sisters, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
you have a lot of faith. It was just a different experience from you guys because your dad was a pastor.
I think
Right.
that's what, and it was
we were all lay people,
it
right?
was in my home every minute of every day. I mean, we were surrounded by it. Yeah.
Yeah, retired now, right? Your father.
Yeah, my father is retired. Yeah.
But also strong foundation in Christ, which I walked away from for some time, but luckily
As did I.
Was called back.
Yep.
Right. So you say the desire and want to care for others, the ability to educate and communicate, and interpersonal and networking skills all kind of came together with an underlying foundation of faith, right?
Yeah.
That kind of led you to where you are now. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so. You
didn't get there immediately, did you?
No.
As an adult?
No. In fact, I knew I was working in a wonderful furniture store here in Gainesville for several years. And I was a single mom at the time, and I was really struggling to get past a certain level of income. And I had been offered a wonderful job, and I was about to sign paperwork, and the recruiter that I had been working with said, "We're so excited to have you on board. I just don't remember what your 4-year degree was." And I said, "Oh, I don't have a 4-year degree. I had gone to a seminary, but did not have a 4-year degree." And he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't even have been talking to you." So I had a good cry, and I signed up for college. And I said, "I don't know how I'm going to get it. I'm going to go one class at a time and get through." And so had some good advisors. I finally made it through college. I squeezed in my 4-year degree in probably 6 or 7 total, but I was able to get my degree, and then I wanted to go work with seniors. I knew I was passionate about it, but I didn't have that on my resume. And so I kept trying to send out my resume, and I would immediately get kickback that said, "I'm so sorry, we found somebody else that was much more qualified." And we all know those emails. They have no idea. They sent it back in 10 minutes. They didn't find somebody in 10 minutes. But on my resume, I didn't have the keywords. So I sat in a parking lot one day, and I was crying because I really felt called to work with seniors, yet I couldn't get there. And I really feel like God led me to an article on LinkedIn, I think, that said something about if you cannot get into the job that you feel passionate about, then volunteer. And I remember sitting in the car and kind of being angry because I felt like God gave me that thought. And I said, "Well, by then you and I were married, and we had 6 children that we were responsible for on a regular basis, blended family." And I said, "I have no time for volunteering." And I just felt so strongly compelled to volunteer. So I thought, well, I'll cut my lunch break a little early. I'll go back and look online and just see what's out there. So I did. And the first thing that popped up was the Alzheimer's Association. And I said, that was so difficult. We walked through that journey with my grandfather, and my grandmother had another dementia. That would probably be a great fit for me. I'm passionate about it. That would be a way for me to help those people that I want to help. So I called, and of course, within 5 minutes, any volunteer basically these days, people are so excited to get volunteers. Right. And they said, "We have a spot. You can volunteer." So I began volunteering, and you were very supportive of that and said, "We'll find a way." So I volunteered. And the interesting thing was, in about 6 months, when I put that on my resume and I put that out there, all of a sudden, these places started responding back, "Oh, you have experience with Alzheimer's and dementia." And I had. So I began to work in the field that I felt that I was called to. And the journey has been a lot of fun, and it has been a lot of growth. And you have always been very supportive, and I've always been grateful.
I'm happy to be there supporting you. So that was that moment of realization not the moment of realization, but you said God, put that sign in front of you saying, hey, this is the path, right?
Yep.
Would you say that's one of the more formative moments of your adult life?
Yes. And I just really remember sitting in the car and wrestling with it and saying, there's just no way. But I feel that when God calls you to do something, he does make a way. And you were immediately extremely supportive. And then as soon as I started volunteering with the Alzheimer's Association, about 6 months later, they recruited me out of the job that I was in. And I was so happy to start to be an advocate for the people that were living with Alzheimer's and dementia. It was really a very formative part in not only my life, but I feel like in your life and in the life of our children as well.
We used to joke around, right, about the Alzheimer's Association. We'd call it the walk to end Augustine, because you'd have me carrying stuff everywhere.
Yes, because it wasn't just me that got involved. All my family got sucked into that with me.
so yeah, and there's actually something I want to have a conversation with you about that, because that evolved into so many things.
It did. It really did.
But if we go there right now, that'll be the rest of the time talking about that. So it created kind of a stair-step function for you, right? Because you moved from volunteering to career in that sector, right? Yes. Which then just stepped you up and up and up, and you continued to volunteer. Would it be fair to say, or what advice would you give the young people? It's kind of a loaded question because I know the answer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Young people to penetrate into any set market segment. It seems like if you're having a headwind like you are, that finding a way to volunteer and get experience through volunteering is, if it's available to you, is a good option. Would you say that that's correct?
100%. I would say that. Just like the article, and I've tried to find that article, I don't know how many times, but I tell our children, and I've told so many other younger people, if you're not where you want to be, number one, look to your education. Make sure that you've gotten as educated as you can be with the money that you have, or even if you have to work extra to get more money to get your schooling, do it. And then number two, it is look around at the field that you want to be in and volunteer. Find a way to volunteer in it. If you want to be in the senior industry, that one's a very easy one to find volunteer opportunities. If you want to be in the medical field, I feel like there's a lot of opportunities. You can even go and rock babies if that's your speed. But there are so many ways that you can volunteer. For example, if you want to be in construction and you're not there, go volunteer for Habitat for Humanity and start to learn from the pros how to do that. So anything you want to do, I bet you we could find you a way to volunteer so you get that experience.
Yeah, and experience seems to be the key word there, right? Any way that you can go about getting experience and on your resume, right? That is reflective of where you want to go.
Yeah, because these days we know most of the time you're not going to walk into a place where you're trying to get a job. You're going to have to put your resume out there, and it's going to go into some database, and you know more about this than I do, but they're going to look at keywords, and if you don't have the keywords they're looking for, they're never going to even call you. They'll never even see your resume. Yeah. So
it's pretty incredible, right? The path you want. I never had a doubt for you, but if you and you started off, you were selling furniture. You sold pianos.
That was I was a young lass when I sold pianos.
You were selling furniture.
Yep.
Then you were selling metal roofing.
Yes.
Then you were selling HVAC systems.
Ooh, yes. That was a little frightening.
Right. And then you kind of stepped out of selling and you went into coordinating teams for healthcare services and maintenance, or the maintenance of medical equipment.
Yes. Right?
Yeah. So that was your one foray outside of selling, which is what you're good at. Right. Or like we don't say it's not selling, it's relationship building and business development. Right?
What I do now is definitely not selling. It's I'm a liaison in the community, educating people on hospice and breaking barriers so that people can access those advantages. Yeah.
I like to tell you, you're BD, you're not sales, you're business development and marketing.
Because I'm not money driven.
You're relationship driven, and that's key, right? So
Yes.
then you segue from that, and what was your first entry into elder care as a profession?
Oh man, that was what the kids used to say, my playing in the sandbox days. I went in and started to be a life enrichment director, I guess. I was the life enrichment director in a memory care. And I have my degree in counseling. So I thought I would never use a bachelor's degree in counseling, but God had other thoughts in mind, and I have been able to use that so many times in every step that He has brought me to. I feel that He has given me the tools in my background to meet those needs. So that one was so impactful and so fun for me.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I remember you. It seemed to satisfy a need for you to
It
not
did.
only care for others but event plan and come up with
Event
games.
plan and educate, because I mean I would have 30 something beautiful residents sitting in front of me daily, and we did exercise and we talked about we would reminisce and share in their stories, and I would teach them pretty much whatever was the fun thing of the day. For example, the other day I just did an activity. It was an everything on a stick day, and when you're working with people that have memory disorders, man, it was just fun for them. It was an adventure, loading a stick with cheese and pepperoni and then fruits, and talking about the flavors of the fruit and the sizes of the fruit and the colors of the fruit and tasting the fruit. It just can be very fun and rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're good at it, right? Which is key, and you enjoy it,
I
and you
do.
have passion for
I
it,
do.
right? So those are
Yeah.
the key elements. Then where'd you go from there?
Well, that is where the Alzheimer's Association scooped me up out
Yeah.
of. So the person that was running the walk to end Alzheimer's that I was volunteering for moved on. And so the Alzheimer's Association said, hey, we think that you might be a good fit for this. And that was the one thing, like normally you and I talk about everything before I will commit to anything. And I didn't even think about it. I said, yeah, you'll have my resume by the end of the night. And I ran home and I said, I didn't talk to you about this. And you said, no, of course you're sending your resume in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that was a pretty big step for you, right? You became a walk manager. You did that for how long did you do that for?
For 2 of the walk seasons.
Two
And
seasons, so 2 years.
honestly, I probably would have done more, but the walk was growing and we had the opportunity to grow down into the villages at the same time, while you and I don't even know how many high schoolers we had. But I decided that really the time commitment was going to be too much, and too much time out of town when our children were, busy with, even extracurricular activities like sports. And I wanted to be a part of that.
Right.
So I felt like it was probably time to put my notice in and get back to something more centralized in our community.
Right, which was placement, right? That was the next role you had.
No, that one was marketing in a facility, and that
Oh,
was,
that's
if
right.
you'll
That's
remember,
right. Yes, I remember. Yep.
thankfully I had made that move right before COVID, because when COVID hit and our children needed to homeschool essentially, I definitely didn't need to be wandering here, there, and everywhere. I needed to be very central.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I had that job.
Oh, I remember. I remember that job. Then you went to placement.
No,
No.
no.
Wow.
Then
What
I
am I
wanted,
missing?
I wanted to go to placement, if you remember, because I asked you about it for years. Is it time? Is it time? Is it time? And you would say, I don't think it's time yet, because in placement I didn't have a regular paycheck
That's
expected.
right. Yep.
So I went. I spoke with Next Step Senior Solutions many times, and I said, I can't come and work with you yet. What do you suggest that I do? And they mentioned that it would be great if I had some home health knowledge. At the same time, a home health company said, hey, we're looking to hire in your area. And so I accepted a job with a home health company that is no longer here, or they've changed hands, and the company is not the same. But I was able to do that for several months, and then I had really fallen in love with the hospice benefit, and hospice had an opening, and I was able to go to work with a hospice company. And man, the education I got, it was like sucking water from a fire hose for the next almost 2 years, but got so much education.
Yeah. Increased your knowledge base, right? So every it was a stepping stone, right? Each one was, and a learning experience, and that gave you the expertise you needed in that field, right?
Right. Yeah.
And started to cement you as an expert in the community. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. So at that point, I had experience working in assisted living, in memory care, in with skilled nursing facilities. I've never worked in a skilled nursing facility, but with them quite a bit. And then I learned home health, and then I learned hospice. And at that point, you said, okay, I think the kids are old enough. We might be okay to step out kind of on faith. And I was able to go do placement and be independent for a couple of years. And that was a lot of fun.
So in hospice, you were doing sales, right?
It's more community liaison marketing kind of stuff. Yeah.
Then now you went directly into placement, and that's when you were an independent agent or contractor.
It was,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you were worried, right? Because then now your salary's all pool driven. It's not.
Right. And in placement, I don't charge anyone for my services. So I would spend quite a bit of time with people, and it would be volunteer, essentially, because I would have people that would call, sometimes hysterical, just not knowing what to do. And just kind of listening to their stories and helping them to solve problems. And that is where I think you would hear me sometimes saying the same things over and over and over and over. And you said, you need to start recording this.
Was that tough for you? Was it challenging to listen to people that needed help, and all you could do was advise them because the resources weren't available?
Yeah. Sometimes it's very difficult, because sometimes you do have to tell people hard things and say, man, you did not, you never want to say, gosh, guys, you didn't prepare. And so now you're looking at a much less desirable outcome than if you had prepared. And so I began to sing very loudly to people in our age, hey, wake up, it's coming. We all know at some point, unless you are called quickly in a fast event, you are called to eternity, you are going to have tribulation at some point. There is going to be trouble. There is going to be a slow go time and a no go time. And you need to be ready and prepared. So I think that your idea to have the podcast was hard for me to grasp at first, because I'm not tech savvy, not even a little bit.
But you're people savvy.
But I'm people savvy.
Yeah.
And thankfully, one night I walked into a studio where Tristan with Chasing Shadow Studios was having just a headshot night. And I looked around and I said, whoa, you have a studio. You know what you're doing. And I have stuff I want to talk about. And so we began a relationship at two and a half years ago even.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yep.
That got you the Aging Gracefully with Julie Roca, which is our venue that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
While you continued to do placement, continued your volunteer work with the Alzheimer's Association. You have a habit of, or a pattern of, picking something up and then just carrying it along out of the next thing and the next thing.
I can't quite leave it.
Can't quite leave it behind.
I know. I hospice is probably one of my favorite benefits that's out there. It's such a huge helping hand to not only the person that may be at end of life in the last 6 months to a year of life, but also to the family members that, they can still carry that help even after their loved one takes their last breath and leaves this earth. So it's been one of my favorites. And when the economy again started shifting, you and I looked at each other and said, maybe I needed to have a regular paycheck. And I immediately thought, okay, well, the one place I would want to go back to a corporate world would be hospice. And so community hospice and palliative care is where I currently draw my paycheck from and pour out a lot of energy and love for people.
You find it fulfilling.
I find it very fulfilling. Yes. Yeah.
So you're now doing hospice, right? You're still doing placement occasionally.
Yes.
You're still volunteering with the Alzheimer's Association, but now you're in advocacy, right? So more of your time is spent doing the advocacy work instead of the walk.
Yes, but I still work a lot with the Walk to End Alzheimer's, and I'm guessing we're going to talk about...
Oh, you know where I'm going.
I'm guessing we're probably going to talk a little bit about that.
You have a little bit of a vested interest in that, don't you?
Yes.
Well, I think people would love to hear this story of, how this path that you got on not only led to this branching career opportunities for you, to fulfillment, to helping the community and establishing relationships, but then also to the future of our family, right?
It kind of did. So one day, at being in the community that we are in, our healthcare community here in Gainesville is pretty tight knit. So, and I am what I consider sometimes a connector. So one day I got a call from a young woman who had just graduated from University of Florida. And she said, my boss told me to call 3 people and take them out to lunch, and you're one of them. I said, oh, this is going to be great. This will be fun. So we scheduled a lunch, and I'm sitting in Panera and killing time working on my phone or whatever. I look up, and there's this beautiful 6-foot-tall woman coming toward me with a big smile on her face, and you must be Julie. And I said, well, you must be Skylar. And in the second that she walked around the corner, I have only felt something like this a few times in my life, but I felt that lightning moment, and I felt God say, this is your son's future wife. I've prayed for that since he was in utero. So it was a special little revelation. And then for the next hour and a half, I interviewed her.
Well, clearly she and her family have become a very important part of our lives. We can see how touched you are just remembering it, right? And I want to let everybody know that the emotion that you're feeling right now in tears is not relief because you were worried that Drew couldn't do better.
No,
you just
I
knew
just
better
felt
as
like
his
it was
mom,
a gift.
You felt that was a gift that was for you, right?
Yeah, she was unfortunately dating someone. So I told a few people, I immediately called you and said, I think I just met Drew's future wife. And I called a couple of my friends or was talking to a couple of my friends. One is now my coworker. And I said, I think I met my son's future wife. Unfortunately, she's dating someone else because she was at the time. And I just felt strongly like I wasn't supposed to force a meet. So we didn't. Yeah. We knew about Skylar. I was building a friendship and a connection with her for about a year. She ended up needing another job. And I said, man, you would be great at my old job with the Alzheimer's Association, and they need somebody. So she got my job with the Alzheimer's Association as the walk manager. And so, no, I'm still very involved in the walk. It's just, I don't so much talk about it with you anymore. It's Skylar and I that get together and talk a lot about the walk and what we're going to do. And in fact, we were discussing sponsorships earlier today. So
I think the way you played it was just mastery at its highest level, right? Because we didn't let Drew know. Drew had no idea this was coming.
He did not.
Skylar didn't know it was coming.
No.
And you just kept creating opportunities for the two of them to interact, right? And it came down to one moment.
It never quite happened. And Skylar apparently thought my children were 15. God bless her. She thought I was younger than I was. So she didn't realize I had children that were her age. And it finally came down to that one time, and I had felt very strongly that it was time. So I asked Drew if he would volunteer with me, as he has done so often in the past, if he would volunteer at the walk. And he said yes. And then he told me, he said, Mom, if you can get my boss to let me go, who was a friend of mine, then I'll go and help you. Yeah. So I got his boss to say yes. And then the little turkey turns around and I didn't know that he was talking to our oldest daughter, who lived in Auburn at the time, and he had decided he was going to take that weekend instead and go up an apartment hunt with Elise and move in with Elise.
He and Elise lives in Auburn. He had decided he was moving up there. Right? Yeah.
So, he came and said, hey, Mom, I think I changed my mind. I've got this opportunity to go up and see Elise this weekend. I'm going to go see my sister. And I said, whoa. I said, son, you committed to me. But Drew has a very special relationship with God. And, so I asked him, I said, son, I really want you to go prayerfully and ask God what he wants you to do for the weekend. If he wants you to go to Auburn and you feel strongly that that's where he's leading you, then man, I want you to go. Don't even think twice about it. I said, but if you think that he wants you to stay here and volunteer this weekend and go to Auburn some other time, then I think you should be here. So he comes out the next morning and he goes, Mom, I guess I'm going to stay. I had committed and I feel strongly that I should be here. And you walked behind me and you said, son, you have no idea.
I kept telling him, you don't know. You don't know how lucky you are.
Because I didn't tell him.
Yeah, so I think you got a great side hustle as a matchmaker. In fact, this is our big announcement and reveal to the world that you're starting Loving Gracefully with Julie Roca. So if anybody out there has children that need matchmaking, no, I'm kidding.
No, we are not.
You certainly have a gift though, but I think what you're kind of laying out there that I'm reading is that there seems to be this plan.
There is a plan
that takes shape, right?
There is a plan that takes shape, and Skylar and Drew did meet at the walk. She did discover he was not 15. She sent me.
Wait! You have to explain, right?
Oh, so, what part am I explaining?
That he's not 15.
Oh, he's not 15. No, he's just a couple months younger than her, actually.
Right, but she thought he was.
She thought he was 15 for the entire time that she and I had been friends. But we went to leave that walk that he had volunteered at, and he said, I think I've made a grave mistake. And I said, what? And he said, I didn't ask Skylar to lunch. And I said, oh, son, I've done this job. Skylar has no interest in going to lunch. She's probably going home and going to sleep like immediately because she's exhausted. But I said, you can always take that opportunity and ask her later. And about that time, Skylar sent me a text saying, thank you so much. Don't know what I would have done without you and your tall son. It was great to have you both. She didn't say a word about you, love. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I can live with that.
And I read between the lines. There was a lot about the tall son. So I said, oh, I don't like to get in between things with my children. Here's his number. And put my phone down. And before we were even out of the parking lot, we heard him laughing. And I said, hey, what was that about? He said, Skylar's texting me. And that was it. We didn't see Drew was for weeks.
And now more than a year later, they're getting married.
Yeah, they're getting married. So next month we won't be recording because it'll be wedding weekend.
Yeah, be Easter and then wedding weekend.
So no recording next month.
Yeah, yeah. And just so everybody knows, right? You mentioned Skylar's 6 foot tall.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Drew
is 6'5" or 6". It's really hard to tell because he has some big hair and I can't see that high. So
I'm sure Drew's gonna love this. So they are a tall and striking pair when they walk into it. They are. So that I mean, as I said, there's clearly a story unfolding here. There's a lot of good happening there, a lot of connections that you're making. What are the headwinds, right? What does the struggle bus look like for you on a daily basis? Right? What are some of the challenges that you're facing?
Sometimes it's just the frustration of not really wanting to bring resources and help, and knowing that it's just a very difficult road for the families that I'm talking to. Things have a way of working out. So I tell families all the time that even if it looks like there's no silver lining, things have a way of working out. We do live in America, and I have never seen someone not have a place to have their final rest if they chose to go someplace and get help. We can. It's just as difficult. So that's a frustration. Sometimes it's loss. I get very attached and then I feel a sense of loss. And so I know that you have seen that before, and you'll say, whoa, like this person isn't even big in our lives. I don't feel I didn't know this person at all. And yet sometimes the loss will just hit me and I will have to deal with that. And so the support that you give is always really great. You always listen and let me cry sometimes, because sometimes I need that. And then we get back up and go at it again.
Well, I feel blessed to have the opportunity to support you, love. So
thank you.
So, but it I guess, people don't expect it sometimes, right? Because it seems to come on, you look at the pattern of life, it seems you're going about everyday life lost in whatever your headwind is that day or whatever your excitement is that day, right? That's all of your entire reality is that, right? I'm late for work, I have a meeting, I'm not getting along with my boss today, not getting along with a customer, bills, whatever it is, right? Argument. And you get lost in that and you don't realize you got to find that amount of days. And it seems to come on suddenly for a lot of people, right? Like one minute you're okay and the next minute you're not. Yeah,
we call them the go-go days, the slow-go days, and the no-go days. And sometimes people completely miss the slow-go days, and they go from the go-go days to the no-no days, no-go days, and it can happen that way.
Yeah, so they get caught off guard, and sometimes it leads people to not prepare. Right. I think, right? You see that as a big issue in the market.
Yeah.
Or not, I'm calling it the market. I'm sorry.
It's not. It's,
you can't.
It's the world.
The way my brain's programmed, right? The people's lives. I guess, if you to summarize it, we forget that we are called to many things, but we're also called to suffer, right?
Yeah. And sometimes
for many, right? There's a period of suffering that comes that just takes you out.
Yeah. For everyone, really, that is, I guarantee. Unless you go quickly, you will have periods of suffering in life, and you just need to be ready.
It seems like you're deceived, right? Like I'm standing here right now, I feel, this is just the way it's always going to be, but no, right?
Yeah, so, right.
I mean, thank God there's people like you, right, that are there to help people walk through that process, because I think you and the people like you that do what you do are special and should be celebrated, because I certainly don't have those gifts, to do that. I have different set of skills and gifts.
Yes, right? Very different.
But there's a very special group of people, right, that will go off and know how to help people, right, and provide not only care and education but comfort. Yep. Right, and it's hard. It's not easy. Right? Yeah,
and we do tend to pull a lot of those people on this podcast.
We do.
So
a lot of great people. So now we talked about Struggle Bus for you in what you do, right? What about personally, right? There's challenges, I'd assume, especially as our life phases change and we get into...
Oh my goodness, yes. And that we might have to have a whole different conversation on another day. But the whole menopause thing has been quite something for both you and I. I think middle age has a lot of changes that
sure
come
does.
through in so many ways. And unfortunately, we don't have time to dive into that today, but keep watching on Aging Gracefully with Julie Roca, because we will definitely be focused more on that in the coming months. Yeah.
We talked about doing a whole segment on menopause plus menopause.
Yeah.
Which is a real thing. Right?
Which there's a scientific term for it. It's not menopause, but we will have a specialist on that we will break that down for sure. Well, love, thank you for coming on.
No.
Oh.
This is my session. So I want to thank you for letting me have this interview with you on your podcast. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me on your podcast, Julie Roca. I think, the people, at least the people that know you and watch this would probably be, at least interested in what you do and how you got here, right? And some of your thoughts. I think you spend a lot of time on this side asking great questions, but every now and then we need to hear from you and see what's going on.
Really thoughtful, love. Yeah.
Every now and then. Every now and then I'm thoughtful. All right. Well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for joining me. All right. Julie Roca.
If you haven't liked this podcast already, please like it. Please subscribe, and feel free to share.
Yeah. Ring the bell.
A little bit about our lives.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.